Hello, Griffiths families, and welcome back to the 2021-2022 school year. I'm Mr. Wharton, the Dean of Students, and I have to say it has been amazing seeing your students on campus interacting with each other. And even though it's been just a few weeks, I can see some routines are starting to be established both in the classroom and on campus, as well as probably at home as well. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and go through some of our expectations and guiding rules throughout the school year that we want to make sure we use as a team effort, both us at school and you as the parents at home, to make sure that our students are having the best experience here at Griffiths Middle School. So let's go ahead and get started. This is kind of what we'll be talking about today. We'll be covering a few things. Number one, expectations of what it means to have Thunderbird culture here at Griffiths Middle School. We'll also talk briefly about our PBIS reward system. Then we'll talk a little bit about dress code, and then finally our electronics policy. So just a brief overview of what we're going to talk about. I'll go ahead and get started with our expectations and Thunderbird culture. As many of you probably already know, and if you don't, we are a character counts school as part of the Downey Unified School District, which is a character counts district as well. We hold to the principles of being a terrific Thunderbird, which means that our students are trustworthy, respectful, responsible, fair, and caring citizens at all times, both on campus and outside of school within the community. So what is it that makes a terrific Thunderbird? Well, these four things. Always being positive, trying to have an outlook that's positive, holding yourself with high integrity and keeping interactions positive with other students, being respectful always to each other and to any adults on campus, being responsible, being mindful of others, their space, their property, while also taking pride in our campus. And then always our interactions should always be safe, making sure that we're following the rules and procedures while being aware of others. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what it means to have each of these things here in the next few minutes. So please stay tuned as we talk about our expectations posters. So as you can see, we take those three expectations: respectful, responsible, and safe. And we talk about in specific areas what it means and reminders for our students of what it means to be a terrific Thunderbird. So as you can see here, this one's talking about on campus and the things that they'll see. These will be posted all around campus for students to see and to be able to remind themselves or be reminded of if they're interacting on campus, what it means to be a terrific Thunderbird. So as you can see, we have some for the quad, always obviously, some of just the basic things here, just being mindful of others. We do have a lot of students in the quad at one time, especially during snack. And then our first lunch, which is our 6th and 7th graders, there's a lot of students out there. So it's always good to be mindful of space and where others are located to be as respectful and safe as possible. Being able to make sure you clean up after yourselves. They've done a really good job, I have to say. Students have done a really good job of cleaning up after themselves, throwing their trash away, and just again, that kind of idea of making sure that we leave the area we've been in better than we found it. There's also some other specifics in there that you can see there. And we'll move on now to the restrooms. Obviously, this one's going to be posted in the restrooms so students can have an idea of what it means. Use the restroom, get in, get out, be quick about what you need to get done. If obviously you're not feeling well, please make sure that we have students going to the nurse's office as opposed to spending extra amounts of time in the restroom. And that it is not a meeting place to have social sessions. Make sure that we keep our interactions in the restroom short and as sweet as possible. Then in the hallways, obviously, here's some other things to talk about in the hallways: being considerate of classes, making sure we keep our noise down, making sure that we keep all the hallways and breezeways cleaned by keeping food and trash in the cafeteria and in the trash cans. And again, being mindful of personal space as our hallways, we do have students traveling both ways in the hallways, and making sure that we always keep things as positive and friendly as possible. And then in the rec area, this is where students at lunchtime can go play basketball, kick the soccer ball around. We do have equipment for them to use, so please, parents, please remind your students to refrain from bringing their own personal sports equipment to play in the rec area. We do not allow football during rec time due to supervision. We need to make sure that we have our supervision focusing on those areas where there's soccer and then there's basketball. We do have a good amount of students out there during rec time, during lunch, so it's just a matter of being safe, as tossing the football can turn into two-hand touch, which then can turn into tackle. We will have after-school sports eventually, and football may be one of them. I can't guarantee that yet, but when we have that information, we will definitely pass that along. And then online. This is something where the team effort really applies here. We definitely want our students to feel safe online. Please make sure you're reminding your students to keep their login and personal information private. Only share information with those that have permission to share. So for instance, if somebody shares something with a student, if they don't have permission to share it online, they shouldn't be sharing it. Obviously, keeping interactions positive and appropriate. No recording negative interactions and posting that stuff online to belittle another student. And then also, if you or your students see anything that is negative being posted online, please report it to myself, Ms. Bedoya, Dr. Zagara, our counselors, any one of our teachers or staff, and they will make sure to let me know. I'll let the admin team know, and we will make sure to handle it accordingly and try to get that removed as quickly as possible. Now, moving into our PBIS and student rewards. Our PBIS is a system that allows teachers and students to interact in positive ways. So we have students interacting in positive ways, doing things just to do good things. They can get rewarded for doing these good things. So what does it mean? This is what it means. So students get rewards through the app. So students can download it on their phones. We're trying to get it uploaded onto the iPads as well. That's coming from the district. So as soon as that's available, I will let students and families know. Another thing is how do I earn points? Well, if you remember and practice those school-wide expectations that we just talked about, as your students can do that, they'll get rewarded for it. And it may be one of those things where they are doing it just out of the goodness of their heart. Teacher catches them doing a good thing, rewards them with some points. Now, the next question is we have students going, well, what can I do with my points? Well, you can use them, or they can use them to purchase in-class rewards. They might be tangible physical rewards like pencils or things like that, some swag that they can get from their teachers. Or it might be something like, the ability to listen to their music while they're doing independent work, or be entered into a raffle for lunch with the teacher, things like that. So they all are based on a variety of points, and then students, once they earn the amount of points necessary to purchase that reward, they can purchase it, and then it is redeemed by the teacher or by myself or one of our other staff members who run our school-wide store. And then we will be delivering those this year, much like an Amazon system, to help instill that good things happen when you do good things. And who can give points? Any teacher or staff member witnessing a positive interaction can give students points. And now that the students have their IDs, it's that much easier, as we can just scan their ID and immediately be able to give them points. So it's a really easy system to give some quick rewards in real time and to reward students for continuing to have that positive outlook and being terrific Thunderbirds. So again, here's how it works. So students practicing school-wide expectations, they can earn points from the teachers. Then they can go online through the app, which you can get either on the Apple Store or Google Play Store, I believe it is, for those that don't have an iPhone. You can look it up. It's PBIS Rewards. There's a student one, and then there's also one for parents that I'll talk about here in a minute as well. And then just repeat. Keep this up. Make sure that you continue to do this throughout the year, or encourage your students to continue to do this throughout the year and continue to be able to earn those rewards from either their teachers or our school-wide store. So here's what the student app looks like. So on their phones, and hopefully soon on their iPads, because we want them to try to keep their phones put away throughout the day, they'll see this. So it'll give them an idea of what they have. You can see here there's the points per expectation. Then they can see what stores they can purchase from, what items they can purchase or items they have purchased in the past, as well as possible events coming up as well. So students can see their current points, the points they've earned each day, the teacher in school stores, and then purchased items. So teachers will give those items at their own designated time, and then what we'll do for the school store, much like Amazon, we'll deliver those once or twice a week. Probably have ASB or web students be delivering those directly to classrooms. So tell your students to keep up those good expectations and practicing those things daily. Now for parents, here's what you can do. You can go to either the Apple Store, the Apple App Store, or Google Play, or wherever your app store is, whatever it's called, and you can download the Parent app. It's PBIS Parent Rewards. And once you do that, you'll get confirmation, or you can request confirmation or an access code, and I'll be able to deliver that to you via email or as a text, however it works out for you. And you'll be able to then see the following. So your students' current points, how many they've earned for each day, the grading period and year, and what the students have purchased. So how it works is, again, the teachers will give points and then redeem rewards. Students earn points for practicing those 3 expectations: respectful, responsible, and safe, and then they can redeem those rewards virtually. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about a really hot button topic with a lot of students on campus, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear on this. I do not want students to not feel like they can't express themselves, but we do have a wide variety of age ranges on campus, from 10 years old all the way to 14 years old. So we want to make sure that with dress code we are doing things just in moderation. Obviously, our 8th graders really trying to express themselves as they now get closer to high school. Just please make sure that we are adhering to the dress code and that students are, again, practicing that respectful behavior on campus. And just remind them that, as 8th graders, the dress code does change once they get to high school. So here are a few highlights that I'd like to go over as we start. Now, as you guys can see here, there's a few things, and I'll go over those in a few seconds, but for those of us that remember this movie from the 90s, just really quickly wanted to play up here this clip from Clueless. So here we are.
Okay, I don't want to be a traitor to my generation and all, but I don't get how guys dress today. I mean, come on, it looks like they just fell out of bed and put on some baggy pants and take their greasy hair, ew, and cover it up with a backwards cap, and like, we're expected to swoon? I don't think so.
So obviously a funny moment for some of us that remember the movie Clueless, a very nostalgic moment in the movie, excuse me, but just kind of hitting the point. Obviously, no extremes with regards to dress. So things that we don't want: open-toed sandals, slippers, or slides. Just because they're, we want to make sure our kids are being safe and no injuries and, hurting their feet or anything like that. So always closed-toed shoes or tennis shoes of that sort. No inappropriate messages, anything with profanity, gangs, drug-related, etc. There's more information obviously in the Griffiths Guide, so you can look at that specifically within there. These are just some highlights. And then obviously sleeveless shirts or tops. This goes for both girls and boys. No spaghetti straps, tube tops, halter tops, crop tops, muscle and tank tees. So basically the shirts and tops need to cover the stomach and back at all times, and the shoulders. So it's basically just trying to keep things in moderation. Sagging pants, shorts, etc. The ideal is keeping them at the waist at all times. Nothing below the waist. Don't need, again, as you saw in the clip there, we do not need to see students' undergarments. And then headwear. Obviously, the last year we were in school, we had a Griffiths hat policy only. So it was only if you had a Griffiths hat. We've softened that a little bit to allow students to wear their own ball caps and hats. Obviously nothing that is going to infringe upon the learning of the students, as well as no inappropriate images or wording. And then we do ask that our students take them off during class. Obviously no hoods inside. It's not cold, it's not raining inside of the classrooms, and we want to make sure that our students are being focused at all times within the classrooms. Then some other issues, some other reminders, not issues, excuse me. So as you can see here, this is one of our wonderful staff members, Mr. Plant, he, aka Dr. Thunder, exhibiting what not to wear as headwear on campus. So thank you, Mr. Plant, for that. So just some other reminders about jewelry. Anything that's posing a safety concern is not allowed. So pant, wallet, chains, I know those are the kind of the rage right now. I know they were the rage in the 90s when I was going through school. And then hoop earrings larger than a nickel in diameter. Again, they can get snagged on things and cause injury to your student or possibly injury to other students. And that's obviously we want to try to practice being as safe as possible. All shoes, no heels or soles higher than 1 inch. This is obviously, there are some areas on campus where there may not be perfectly level ground. We want to avoid students, injuring their ankles or feet during the school day. Obviously, I have an open door policy with all of our students, as does Ms. Bedoya and Dr. Zagara. So if you're unsure or your student is unsure about something that they'd like to wear to school, please make sure that if they want to plan ahead for that, have them bring the item to campus or message myself, Ms. Bedoya, Dr. Zagara, and we can, address that and see if it's something that they can wear to school. Also, now that students have their IDs should be worn at all times. We are working on getting lanyards and ID holders for all of our students, so we'll be having those soon. In the meantime, please make sure that your student keeps their ID with them at all times. The reason is that it allows for ease of rewarding students for earning points on the PBIS Rewards app by being able to scan it sooner. Also, they will need them for lunches, so they can get their lunches with their ID card. The cafeteria staff can scan their ID card really quickly, and it allows them to get their lunch a little bit quicker as opposed to having to try to remember and punch in their ID number. So all of these things are also, again, found in the Griffiths Guide. Please make sure you review the expectations for both dress code and IDs in the Griffiths Guide. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the electronics policy. I know that we've spent a year and a half basically having our students glued to a device. And I know they still are using devices in school, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the electronics policy is and why we have it on campus. So as you can see here, this is also in the Griffiths Guide. It talks about what the rules regarding electronics on campus. So the students all should have their iPads. If your student is new to the school and does not have their iPad yet, I know the district is working on those, getting those out to you ASAP. We should be able to get them a loaner device in the meantime. So their cell phones should be off and in their backpacks at 7:55. We do allow them to use them prior to the start of school, so from 7:30 to 7:55, they can use their devices and their headphones on campus. We do recommend at a lower volume, so in case there's an emergency or students need to be given direction, they can hear what's going on. And then through the end of school. Please make sure that if you need to get a hold of your student, that you contact the front office, and we will make sure to relay messages to the students accordingly. Obviously, if their phone's going off in the middle of class, they're no longer focused on what they need to be doing in class, and they're now focused on what's going on their device. Other reasons, it avoids damage and loss, and that it avoids drama with students posting things inappropriately, at least while on campus. So again, going back to what we talked about before, if you notice anybody posting anything, your student lets you know that somebody's posting something either about them or a friend or just another student, please let us know right away. As far as retrieving cell phones that may be confiscated, if students do not follow the cell phone policy, parents will be contacted through the front office to come and retrieve the device. And then you see over here the different consequences, and this is based on per incident. Again, please review the policy in the Griffiths Guide with your student and remind them that during the school day they can use their iPads while they're at snack and lunch, and then that they should be using only their iPads while in class. unless the teacher otherwise instructs them to use their cellular device. But we do want them to make sure that that device gets put away at the end of that class period. This goes for AirPods as well. Because we can't hear what's going on in those AirPods, and even if they are not on, we don't know that as teachers and staff. So please remind your student, cell phones, AirPods off and away securely in their backpack from 7:55 until 2:41, which is when school ends. And then just some other quick helpful reminders to finish up our presentation. As far as outside food, for the health and safety reasons of our students on campus, we do not allow outside food deliveries such as Postmates, Grubhub, things like that. And please make sure that if you are providing lunch for your student from home, please make sure that you provide that at the beginning of the day, as we had issues with parents dropping off food for students and students either not getting the message or not being able to get their food, and it becomes almost like a cafeteria in the front office. So please, no outside food if at all possible. Please encourage your students to get the lunch that's on campus, as well as if they are going to bring a lunch, that they bring it at the beginning of the day. Before school, the gates open at 7:30 a.m. for all of our general classes. Students are to remain in the quad area until the first bell. There's plenty of places for students to sit. We do have some supervision out there as well. So this is a great way for the students to just kind of relax and be ready to go at 7:55 when that first bell rings. So please make sure that you plan accordingly to ensure that your child is on campus as soon as possible so they can avoid being tardy or late to class. After school, we do have 3 exits: our main gate, our bike rack gate, which is also on Tweedy, but just south, more down towards Lubeck Street, and then our Horley Street gate, which is on the back end of campus. We do ask that our students exit campus promptly and make their way home safely. We do tell them that if their ride is there right away, please get to their ride as soon as possible. If they are walking, obviously to walk home right away, and we do obviously want them to be safe. So the more they're walking in large groups, the safer they are. Also, school attendance. Please make sure that if your student is going to be absent, and we are recommending, obviously, while we are still dealing with this pandemic, to, if your student is feeling ill, please keep them home, but make sure you report the attendance absence to our front office, which is our attendance clerks, our attendance clerk, Ms. Davina Fernandez, or one of our other office staff. Tardy policy is also students arriving at school after 8 a.m. will be marked tardy and will need a pass before going to class. Now that we're back in the front office, this will be starting to be more of a regular routine that we will be using. So again, please make sure your student is on campus prior to 7:55. So when that first bell rings to go to class, they're on campus, plenty of time to get to class by 8 a.m. Again, the tardy policy is clearly stated in the Griffiths Guide. And just as a real quick little review of this, if your student's late just 5 minutes, and let's say there's late 5 minutes every day, that's 25 minutes a week that they're late. Over 2 weeks, that's 50 minutes, which is basically one full class period. So definitely please do everything you can to make sure your student is on campus on time so they can avoid being tardy. And again, anything else that you have questions about, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Ms. Bedoya or Dr. Zagara. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much. I know this is a fairly long presentation, but I wanted to make sure I got these expectations out to you, as we want to make sure that we continue to team to make sure that your student has the best experience as a Griffiths Thunderbird. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and week ahead. Take care.